In our series, Think Like a CXO, we've reached a very interesting and one of my personal favorite topics. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our guest, Mr. Harneet Bhalla, who will enable us to think like a chief marketing officer today. Mr. Harneet Bhalla is the marketing vice president at Aura and has previously worked with many reputable companies such as Glance, Tata 1MG, and Reed Exhibitions as a marketing and growth manager. He has empowered more than 5 Fortune 500 companies, multiple startups, celebrities, and thousands of others through his marketing and speaking engagements. He has also enabled million-dollar corporations to manage their marketing budgets and solve their complex problems. Mr. Bhalla is a professional and keynote speaker and has spoken at various forums and conferences, including TEDx, GLAU, and IIT Bombay. He has been featured on a number of podcasts across USA, UK, Canada, and India. Mr. Harneet Bhalla is definitely a man on a mission. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the stage to Sir so that we can commence today's session. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Meher, for such an elaborative introduction. It definitely puts me on the spot, and it also kind of puts a lot of pressure on me to deliver value back. And I hope I'll live up to the expectations that you have set up in the first minute. But
Hello, Harneet. Welcome. Good to see you here. Saurabh this side.
Hi, Saurabh.
Pleasure meeting you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this. It really makes me more humble, and it also makes me feel I need to continue doing the good work that I'm doing so that I can contribute back to the society. Awesome. Let's dive right into it. I'll share my screen and you guys let me know if you guys can see it. And is it visible? Not visible. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Awesome. Cool. So, first of all, when I got the invitation to talk about how to think like a CMO, the first thing in my head ran is how do I enable someone in 1 hour to think like someone? And it took every one of us in whatever fields we are in whatever designations we hold, years to acquire that skill, years to learn that skill, and years of perfection to get to the stage where we all are in. How do we convey it back? And 1 hour, of course, is too little time to kind of convey how to think like someone. So while preparing for this, the first thought in my head was, how can I give you guys some frameworks that you can take it back and utilize on your own thought processes and figure it out? How do you want to think like? It can be you want to think like a designer, you want to think like a CMO, you want to think like a tennis player, or you want to think like a basketball player, or you want to be an accountant, or anything or everything that you want to fill under that placeholder is that this talk can enable you to do it. So I'll talk about two things specifically in this presentation. It says embrace playfulness, but with obsession. These are the two words which are very close to me, and I see these two words in almost every leader out there in the market. And whoever I spoke to, they have an innate obsession about the thing that they do, and they are also playful about it. And so these are the two words that I specifically want to talk about in this presentation. We'll first talk about obsession, and then we'll talk about playfulness. And if these two capabilities or these two skill sets you can acquire, then you can become anyone, honestly, and you can think like anybody you want to be. So before we get into this, I want to ensure this presentation is not a one-way conversation. I love interactions. I love people talking back to me. I love feedback. I love questions. So anything and everything, wherever you feel like you want to stop me, please feel free. I assume the chat is open. Anybody want to chat anything, you want to type in your questions, I'll take a pause. I'll kind of try to answer that then and there. And if there are anything at the end, we can also do a Q&A, and I'll be happy to cover those areas over there. But one thing that I definitely hate is talking to one way, and I'm sharing, like, I don't know, I definitely need every 5-10 minutes a little bit of confirmation that, okay, we are going in the right track. I'm able to communicate back what I want to communicate. Cool. So before we get started, the first thing I want to ask you guys is, Is this presentation stuck? Cool. So imagine you are the leader of a brand that launched a product that named similar to COVID in 2020. So you launched a product and COVID came in, and your product had exactly the same name as COVID, a little bit here and there, one character here and there, but you launched a product and you are the leader of that brand. You are the CMO. You took the decision to decide that name. And once you landed that product in the market, you know what happened. COVID came in and everyone was like, what the hell is this name that you launched? This similar situation happened to Wix. And when they launched this brand, a product feature named as Corvid, COVID came in right at the same time. And it was a big branding failure. It was a product failure. There was a lot of backlash that people got from there, but they kind of handled it really well. And I think I want to show this video how they handled it, because that really outlines the two key concepts we want to touch today, the obsession and the playfulness. So this video shows the obsession in their PR activities. It also shows obsession and their skill set in terms of handling challenges. But on the other hand, it also shows their playfulness to not be too serious when a setback came into their organization, when their product was failing. They did not become too corporate. They did not become too serious. All they did was went out, be a little playful, but with obsession in terms of consumers. Let me show you what they did.
As you know, this is COVID, the virus. Now this is Corvid, a full stack web development platform that—
What the hell is Corvid?
Whoa.
Is this another virus?
Just give me a second. Corvid lets you use custom code to rapidly build professional web applications.
It's spelled COVID, not COVID.
No, we're talking about Corvid, like this. Oh, damn it.
I think you might have a branding problem on your hands.
You think so, Phil?
Yeah, calling a product Corvid is an excellent idea in 2020.
Actually, we named it in 2019, before the pandemic, after this super intelligent bird
That
family.
name, I've never liked it, even before the pandemic.
I don't have to use it.
Haha.
Wow, worst brand name ever.
Fail.
Epic fail.
I'm the copywriter.
All right, we hear you. It's time for a new name. So now, 11 crazy months later, we present to you Velo, smarter, faster, and definitely not a pandemic. Your move, Corona.
What would you do in this situation if you were the CMO, the brand owner, or one of the leaders in this organization? I imagine all coming together in the boardrooms, having intense conversations, some more heated, some more casual, but someone in the organization thought it's not that serious, we can actually solve that problem. At times when things like these happen, that is where the true culture, where the true capability of a leader kind of calls out. And it really embeds those two things that I want to talk about. The obsession, because they really know how to handle PR, they know how to handle branding, they know how to handle backlash, but at the same time, they were playful and they ensured they did not take them seriously. I know I'm repeating myself, but these are the two things I definitely want to convey, that these are the two core aspects that at least I have figured out in my career are most important, and I keep developing both of them at the same time. To begin,
As you know, this is COVID, the virus. Now this—
I'll first start with obsession, and then I'll go to the playfulness. What is obsession? Obsession, I believe, is skill set. We all start here. Every one of us, when we were 21, 24, 25, 26, whenever we entered the workforce, we all came out with one skill that we acquired either during our college days, during our MBA days, or during any kind of education or life education that we gained. We all had a skill set, or we were out there on a mission to acquire a skill set. We all start here. It's the easiest format to start. There are colleges out there that help you do this. There are educational institutes out there, and there are simple Google searches that you can do if you want to be someone. I want to go a little deeper on skill set. I'll also show you a framework on how I develop my skills and how everyone I know who is at the top of their game do that. But what is the skill set? There are two words in it. One is obsession and second is craft. So obsession in your craft is equal to having your skill set. What that means? If you think of your skill or your work as craft, you become a little more nuanced into it. You add a little more layers to it. You add a little more artistic vision to it. You are not boring. You are not uh, living by the rules all the time. You are crafting. You are trying to figure it out if this works versus that works. So you have that craft level in it. And then you have an obsession to learn everything on it. So it clearly has only few levers, how deeply you understand your work. So if you are a designer, how do you rate yourself on Adobe? Are you 9 out of 10? Are you 6 out of 10? Are you 4 out of 10? Wherever you are, you can improve on it. If you are an advertising guy, how good are you in advertising? Are you a Facebook expert? Do people call you out for help? So this is the skill set section of it that we all start from, and we can create and we develop and we move forward on it. The real progress comes in when you move away from the skill set roles and you get into the mindset roles. Anybody and all of us have seen a lot of people out there who are super talented at what they do, but they can't be great leaders. They can't be at the top of their game when the things go wrong. You can't have them have a seat at the board table. You can't have them have a seat at the stakeholders table, because all they do is talk about their skills, but they don't know how to navigate the other part of the world, which is the mindset part, the stakeholder management part, the collaboration part, the borrowing ideas part, or at least if I kind of club together in one word, the vision part. They don't know if they are the risk takers. They don't know if they have the courage to have new ideas that can fail. And they mostly live by safety, and they mostly live by the rules of the organization. Hence, they are never able to transition into the mindset roles where people create rules. One of the favorite interview questions that I have when I interview people is, when was the last time you failed as a marketer? And most of them have no answers to it. And even if they have answers, they are not as detailed as I expect them to be. They are not as big of a failures as I expect them to have. They mostly talk about, yeah, we did one campaign that failed. We spent $5,000, $1,000 here and there and kind of failed, but they never had any big failures. And the moment they hit the first failures, they kind of crumble, they crash, and they are always looking for help immediately when a backlash kind of hits them. So I'll talk about skill set. I'll also talk about mindset. So let's start with skill set, and let me give you the framework that I use to acquire skills. Before I go there, if chat is open, do you guys want to mention what is the right way to developing skills, or what is the way that you guys use to develop skills? I'll take a pause. Mostly self-learning through online courses. Okay, perfect. Identify the right skills needed to progress in the direction. Okay, that's a good point. Identification. Nice. So you write down. Okay, perfect. Courses, books, courses. That's the way how we learn generally skills. Perfect. Let me give you a framework that will make it easy for you guys to acquire skills and be at the top of the game that you want to be at. And I learned this from sports. I'm really big at learning things outside my industry. I rarely learn anything that I want to learn from my industry. I will look at the case studies of my industry generally for the marketing knowledge, but I would always look out externally for all the other things of my life that I want. So what do you learn from sports? The best thing about sports is there's a world ranking out there. There's a national ranking, there's a state ranking, there's a global ranking. And you can clearly tell who is the winner out in the market. Unfortunately, when we work in the workspace, we all are in, we don't know where we rank at a global level, at the national level, at the state level. I don't know if I'm the best marketer out there. I don't know if anyone is amazing in Delhi that I'm competing with. Anyone is amazing in India that I'm competing with? Forget global. I don't even know how many marketers are out there globally that I'm competing with. But when you're in sports, you have a world ranking, you exactly know where you stand, and then that helps you develop the skills at a very different level. How sports does that is sports basically breaks down the entire game into smallest chunks. It takes a big game like a tennis or a basketball. It says, what are the different segments of it? How can I improve each segment at one moment of time? Am I the best one in that segment? Have I mastered it? Or am I still developing those segments? Once you know you have mastered it, you kind of move to the next skill. But once you know you are still developing them, you work a little harder on it. If tomorrow morning someone goes out and says, I want to learn better cricket, you would not play matches straight away. You might practice your batting skills, you might practice your cricket bowling skills. Within batting, you might practice your cover drives or pull shots. And you might spend the next 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 2 hours just practicing one shot because that is your weakness. That's how sports learn. How can we enable the same thing into our own lives and develop any skill that we want? Let's take an example of tennis, and I will tell you how to use Google in the most efficient way I have figured it out, and how can I find the skill sets that I want to acquire. So the first thing is how to be good at tennis. You type it in Google and it gives you the basic 10 tips. I want to focus on the second thing. Keep your head still. Have you ever seen someone playing tennis with the head still? Like they don't move their heads? How awkward did that be? Get your back leg behind the ball. I don't know what that means. Prepare early for ground strokes. Okay. Get the right forehand grip. I have no clue what this means and how can I actually implement to be good at tennis. And anybody out there who is typing how to be a good at designer, how to be good at designing, how to be a marketer, how to be good at digital marketing, how to be good at SEO, how to be good at Adobe is exactly getting these kinds of answers, which are very vague, which doesn't help move you forward. And it only confuses and gives you so many random things to do, but you really don't progress anywhere. What do you type? So let's break down tennis into multiple sections. And if you type in Google list of tennis skills, the first website that comes on board is Rookie Road. And it talks about all these things. There are 18 different angles that you want to learn. You have to work on your footwork. You also need to work on your shot selection. You need to work on your volleys. And you also need to work on your drop shots and slices. You also need to work on your ball judgment and also returning the balls. Now you have 18 skills to acquire. From here to here, here's a very interesting thing that starts to happen. Everyone wants to be great at something. The moment you show them what it will take, they kind of give up on it. And that is how the social structure of environment is also built up. Everyone is not at the top of their games. Some people settle down and say, okay, I'm okay being 5 out of 10 in my game because that gives me my life purpose. That at least gives me the time of my life. That also tells me I'm okay at a managerial position. I don't want to be a leader because there's too much pressure, too many things to handle. I'm okay just being the ball boy and keep sending balls here and there. Nothing wrong in that. But what I'm saying is the moment you show them there are 18 skills that you need to acquire to be good at that, at least their vocabulary changes in terms of saying, I actually want to do it. Or they say, no, this is good enough for me. I'm where I am. I don't want to learn. This is a great exercise to do with anyone in your team to figure it out if they actually want to be good at something or they are just winging in and using it for the societal purposes that I want to grow. And generally when you do meetings with the team, people would say I want to grow. They don't know what really growth means, and hence I help them break down and what the growth means, and 50% of them say okay, I'm good enough. Cool. Now, if we move forward and we say, okay, there are 18 different types of skills. How can I acquire each of them? So let's assume we pick up the first one, which is mentioned here, footwork. And I go in Google and say, how to improve footwork in tennis. Suddenly I have now PDFs. I have exercises. I have different types of even footsteps. There are professional steps. There are first steps, split, cross, multi, transitional. I have to move in this particular direction. And this is just one of the exercises out of 25 exercises that were in this PDF. And This only talks about 6 types of steps. There are more types of steps to learn, and then I have to learn each of them. Suddenly, you now have a lot of work to do only to improve your footwork, and it probably might take another 3 to 6 months only at the footwork zone. That is exactly what it takes to be good at tennis. You have to have the horizontal width, and you also need to have the vertical width. How many of you have this developed for your own career, for your own line of work, for your own departments, and for your own organizations? And this can be done at anywhere. What is your organization good at? Is it good at footwork, serves, volleys, strategy, drop shots? Are you guys still working on ground strokes, ball judgment, endurance? And within serves, what are you working on? Is it like the serve grip or the flat grip or the top spin serves or stances of serve? Imagine having a conversation with your manager when you move out and you say, hey, I want to learn this one skill. Can you help me figure it out? How can I do that? Can you allocate more budget to my learning and development? Because I have exactly identified what is the area I want to improve in. Can you help me enroll into a course? Can you connect me with a mentor? And I would love to learn on this because I have identified this is the area I want to work on. Once we know the entire field, we tend to get better at it. But what we now do is we get one step at a time and we try to learn one skill at a time and one tiny micro segment at a time. We are nowhere saying, oh, I'm becoming a better designer. Oh, I'm becoming a better branding consultant. You exactly know what you are working on, because when you say I'm improving my design games, I don't know, there is no criteria. All I have is a feeling about your designs, and I can say, oh, this design looks better than what you designed yesterday, or this website looks better than what you designed yesterday. But once you have these kinds of exact frameworks, you would exactly know when do you want to cover horizontal width and when do you want to cover the vertical width. Because at one moment of time, and it completely changes position to position, organizations to organizations, your career progressions to career progressions, whether you need to work on width or you need to work on depth. And once you can identify that, you can actually think like a CMO from an organizational perspective as well. And you can say, does my organization need width or depth? So one of the use cases at my end was we were present in 2 geos, and the conversation was, should we launch another geo? And it's the same conversation that this graph kind of helped same. Should we open more geos or should we go deep into one geo? Imagine you are the CMO of 1mg and you have already covered almost the entire India. You're winning at it. And you go out and say, should we launch another market? Should we launch Singapore? Should we launch Philippines? Or should we launch US and UK? And someone in your team says, no, I have identified there's a lot of depth inside the India as well as a market. Why don't we go more deep? And here are the 6 areas that I want to go deep into rather than going into width. And your careers exactly do that. So when I work on my own self, my own skill sets, I have built something like similar to this. I know as a marketer, I need to be good at analytics. I know as a marketer, I need to be good at advertising. Organic marketing, I should definitely know if I want to have, I want to keep my costs at check. Am I creative enough? Do I know how the creative and the communication section works in my department? How well I am retaining my customers? What's the pricing? How many pricing books I have read? How many pricing strategies I know? How many pricing propositions I'm using in my own marketing? How I am negotiating the contracts? Am I winning at negotiation or losing at it? Are people taking advantage of my lack of negotiation skills? Or am I really a good negotiator and getting a win-win deal for everybody? How is the brand? Is my brand progressive? Brand going low? And am I working on product-led growth or not? And this thing goes and goes and goes. And I can probably add another 10 more width layers to it, the horizontal layers to it. Within those, I can develop the depths in that as well. And the depths would be, how do I go further into analytics? How do I go further into advertising? How do I go further into organic? And I can create those in. There are 4 tips in this when you start doing that. The first tip is that you need to learn only from the best of the best of the best. Spend a lot of time scouting for the best resource available for the skill set you want to acquire. I want to go back to the tennis save. No coach out there is going to be good at everything in tennis. There would be coaches who are good at footworks, and there would be coaches who would be amazing at ground strokes. Whatever you are working on, you need to change your coach. You can't stick with the same coach all the time and say, oh, today I'll work on footwork with the same coach, with the same tool, with the same strategies. And tomorrow I'll work on ground strokes on the same ground, on the same pitch, with the same tools, with the same persons. You need to bring the experts in. So once you identify what you are working on, you will start bringing in more experts into your industry. You will no more have the same coaches all the time. And it's good to have different level of mentors and different level of people come in and kind of help you and scout you in terms of learning that. For example, if I know I need to work on my retention, I look out for courses like retention and engagement cohorts. This is all about how deep diving on how to improve retention through different strategies. I will not just go to Udemy or Google or anywhere and say how to retain customers. You will only get random information, random strategies, or I would say not strategies, actually tactics. But when you look for the exact skill, you will start finding better courses, better coaches, better people, better mentors, better organizational elements, and you will start improving that game. The second tip is always look out outside your industry for a well-rounded approach. The unfortunate thing that we tend to do when we start our careers is we are reading more marketing books. We are reading more, if you're a marketer, we are reading more Google SEO blogs. We are attending a lot more industry conferences. We are just isolating ourselves from all other departments of the world. And we say, okay, we are marketers, hence we will only talk about marketers. That's the biggest mistake I think a lot of people do when they don't look outside their industry to figure it out. So for example, if I need to work on negotiation, I would not look at negotiation in terms of how to negotiate marketing contracts. That's not how my Google search is going to be. I would actually look out and look for where the negotiations are used the most and where negotiation is all about death and life. I think I can't find a better example than this. FBI hostage negotiator, Chris Voss, has us on masterclass that all talks about negotiation, who he negotiates with: bank robbers, terrorists, and kidnappers. And all he tries to do is, and he does that for the government. He's the best in the game when it comes to negotiation. Do I need all of these skills? Absolutely not. But if I can even take 1 or 2 skills from this person and use it in my daily life, I would be at least 70% better than any people out there when it comes to negotiation, because I'm learning from the best in the field and I will know there are 3 or 4 negotiation strategies that will always be in my arsenal. If I'm trying to learn campaign management, where do we learn campaigns? The biggest marketing campaigns out there that happen is in the political angles. May it be elections, may it be any specific sections of political agendas that you need to push. Marketing campaigns are used everywhere. And I will look for people who have done presidential campaigns, because that's the largest scale of a marketing campaign you can find. And if I can only learn 1 or 2 things from those kind of situations, I can use it at my level very, very easily. So I looked at this course. It really teaches political strategy, presidential campaignship. What I learned from this: segmentation. How do you segment your entire country into sub-segments? We have all done segmentation in our jobs. We know which industry we are going after. We know which number of employees of organization we are going after. What is the bucket size? What is the revenue bucket? We know how to create 5 or 10 segments. But how do you create hundreds, if not thousands of segments, and you segment your entire country and you try to win make your candidate a president out there? That's the level of segmentation we want to learn from. We might not be able to grab everything in this course, but if we can pick 1 or 2 items and we can use it in our own journey, bingo, we have hit the goals. The third tip I have is you need to zero down on what you are trying to learn. Now, I have already talked about width, I have talked about depth, but I also want to go even deeper onto the depth side as well, which is you need to combine multiple elements of it. So, for example, if I'm trying to optimize my advertising knowledge, I want to go deeper and say how creatives kind of help in advertising. What kind of creatives are out there? There are serious creatives and there are humor creatives. There are creatives that talk about like greater than life images, and there are also creatives that look for very mediocre people and they kind of make them the highlight. Which creatives are used at what segment? I don't know, but I kind of go deeper into it and try to learn from it. So, for example, if I have to learn humor in advertising, I will look at work of Jeff Goodby, who runs an entire advertising agency only on the basis of humor advertising. And this is one of the works over here. I wanted to show it here so that you can see why I would pick one specific person so niche. And I would say if I want to learn humor in advertising, I will only look at this person to it. Please enjoy this video.
Peter, come take a look at this.
Mr. Daniels, look at this.
The numbers, they keep getting bigger and bigger.
Clicks are off the charts.
Yeah.
Yoshi, 12. We're back.
Sweetie, please. Get your name, please. Take a look at what book.
Everything you got right now.
He really loves that thing.
That's the exact reason why I would only go after this person to learn humor in advertising. Once you know these 4 tips, you would exactly be able to figure it out. What do you want to go after and who to learn from? And the last but not least, always look for counter arguments. Look for thoughts that are against your knowledge. Don't just stuck in your own mind saying, oh, marketing is the only thing in the world, or design is the only thing in the world. Look for books, look for courses, look for areas, look for mentors who talk against you, who say marketing is not important. Read articles that say design is not important at all. And also read articles or courses about where they say don't invest in branding because it's a waste of money. What you will do when you read all those things is you will get a 360-degree view about your own skill set, and you will know how to really use it in the real life world. One of my favorite books is How Brands Grow, and the subtagline says what marketers don't know. This really makes marketers feel stupid, and it tells them exactly how brands grow and how we have a lot of blind spots when we try to do marketing, and how we kind of use data to show our work is working when in reality it's not working. So read books that are against your knowledge as well. I'll take a pause here and I want to give you an exercise for just a minute. Can you build it for your respective skills? And can you map out the ground you have already covered and still open to cover? When you go back after this call, do ensure you make this map for your own skill sets. And once you know the ground that you have covered, you will know the ground that is yet to cover. You will get more humble, but more importantly, you will get inspired and you will figure it out how to do more stuff on that. I'll take for a pause for a here. If you have any questions till that, please let me know, else I'll move forward. There's nothing in the chat. Does it make sense? Or do you have a different way of developing skills?
Hi, Harneet. Hi, this is Karan. I just had a quick question. So I think a lot of what we talked about till now, I think it's largely based on the concept of self-learning. Like a lot of self is accounted for in this method. Sometimes all of that, sometimes self-learning is perhaps not the best way to go about, or what happens is that motivation is fleeting. Sometimes you're not as motivated, and other things get in the way. You're not as disciplined. So how do we account for those factors to drop in the way of learning if we go by this methodology?
That's great. I think the easiest way I have figured out is, do you really want to be the best at your game or not? And if you have decided you need to be the best at your game, you would kind of put in action. So the ground rule that I have for myself is like, I really want to be great at marketing. Like I know I want to be. That's a wish I have, and I still have that wish. So there would be days when I'll be off. I'll be like, I have read enough books. I know what I'm doing. I don't want to spend more time reading another pricing book. I don't want to spend time reading another advertising book because I know 80% of what would be in that book. So during those days, you should leave it, and your obsession for your craft would call you out back. So, for example, when you are an artist, you don't have to stop them and say, "Don't design more, don't build one less art." You actually have to stop them and say, like, you need to take rest because they are working 24 into 7 because they're trying to improve their art. But when we are working, we tend to take breaks because work is boring, and we all know that. And hence, we are always fatigued, and we need more breaks on that. So I think the moment you shift your mindset from work to a craft or an art, uh, the motivation will come in by default. But if there are days when you are just lacking motivation completely, you can just take a break, honestly. And then your obsession for your craft would call you out on its own. And then you will be like, oh shit, I have been not improving my work. I need to go back at it. But it's okay to be disconnected for some time, because then you will know whether you really want to be at the top of your game or not. And at the end of doing this exercise 3 4 times, you would exactly know where you stand, and I know where I stand. And are you motivated to move forward or not? You will just settle down wherever you are. So, for example, I know I will never be a tennis player. I have settled it down. I play it as a hobby. I play it for fitness, but I know I'll never be Roger Federer. So I think the same mindset has to be in the work, which is, I know I will never be a CMO. I know I'll never be a CEO, but I'll be okay at a managerial position permanently. But once you have recognized it and you accept it, that's when you need to communicate it back to the world on that, okay, I am this guy and I want to be here permanently. Please don't touch it further. And organizations would love that kind of people, because we would exactly know this is where they want to stand, and we will give them the work that they need, not rather push them for more pressure or more work. So yeah, have an honest conversation with yourself is my tip over here.
Thanks. Thank you.
Cool. In the interest of time, let me quickly move to the second part, which was the mindset part. So we have talked about the skill set, which is obsession in your craft. I really want to re-emphasize once more, obsession in your craft is really, really necessary to be a top at your game and to move towards the mindset-led roles. You can't start doing mindset-led roles unless you are really obsessed with your craft. The best example I can give it is, you become a head chef of a Michelin star restaurant, but you don't like cooking. Ain't gonna work. So first you need to develop your cooking skills, and then only you can be a head chef at a Michelin star restaurants. So what is mindset? Mindset involves two things. By this level, when you enter this zone of work, we assume, and the organizations assume, that you know what you are doing. There are no more participation prizes. There are no more appreciations for doing your job. There are no more, I would say, appraisals for getting the job done. It's no more there. You are not given a pat at the back for this. And I think that's obvious. You don't go to a restaurant, call the head chef and say, Oh, you have finally cooked the food. Amazing. Thank you so much. You always look for their mindset. You look for how you appreciate the work that they have done. You don't appreciate just the work that they have done. You look at the ideas behind it. You look at their thoughts behind it. You look at the flavors behind it, and then you appreciate that level of effort that they have put in. So, what is mindset? Mindset is you know what your thoughts are, but you're also playful with it. And the best example of that could be, are you a risk taker? Do you take risks? When was the last time you went against your manager in your organization? When was the last time you challenged the CEO in their thinking? And when was the last time you said, I will take the risk of trying this idea, and if it fails, I know it might jeopardize my career because the entire organization will look at me and say, haha, you failed, and I might even get fired, but I'm still so obsessed and I still have so much playfulness in myself that I want to go ahead and try this idea. You will find very little people who would say, I take the responsibility of this, but I definitely want to try it out because I know this is the right thing to do for the organization. If you play safe and live by the rules, you will always be at the skill set level. You will never lead to the mindset level. So, what is mindset? And the first thing I want to talk about is how do you identify you finally have a mindset challenge, and how do you identify that you are finally moving away from a skill set led role to a mindset led role. This is exactly the feedback I was getting, exact words that people around me were giving me feedback. I was sitting in a meeting, we were talking about strategy, and someone says, Harneet, you are thinking tactical, not strategic. We are here to discuss strategy, not tactics. What does that mean? I'll be like, okay, I'll think strategic, but I don't know how to think strategic. I have no clue what strategy even means. And I really get pissed off, honestly, when someone in my team or in the outside world gives an interview to me and says, I want to work in strategy. 12 years into this industry, I still don't know what strategy really means, how to build it from scratch, how to build it really well. But yeah, every one of us wants to be a strategic guys. Most of us are actually tactical people who aspire to be strategic people. We are not strategic people. So I was getting this constant feedback. You are too tactical, not strategic. I'll be like, okay, I'll work on it. I don't know how to work on it, but I said I will. Second thing is don't get into solutioning. We are still defining the problem statement, Harneet. Oh, I thought we are here to solve the problem. And I started giving solutions, but they were only there to discuss the problem statement in depth. And the first thing in my head was, why would someone spend 1 hour of 10 people just talking about the problem and not talk about solutions? Because I was here with a list of 10 things that we can do to solve this problem. But people were more interested to only talk on the problem that we have and still remain in the stage of defining the problem. You're thinking like a marketer, not like the customer. It's typical feedback. You're thinking like a designer, not like the organization. You're thinking like X, not like the real stakeholder. I was getting this feedback. You are just throwing money at the problem while still not solving the real problems. So the every idea, every solution I had was run Facebook ads, run Google ads, run this ad, run that ad. I was just throwing money at problems while actually going deeper into what the problem really means. And last but not the least, you're thinking linear. There is no playbook for this problem. When you step into the leadership roles, there are no more defined problems. There are always unknowns. There are always undefined problems that come your way, and you just have to navigate. You don't solve problems, you navigate the problems. So I was thinking very linear in terms of let's solve these problems. All organizations do is navigate from one problem to another, one problem to another. And even today, the largest organizations still face problems every single day. If all of us knew how to solve problems, there would be no problems in any organization, but still every day we see problems. So these were the actual feedbacks I got. And then when I went home, after I kept getting this feedback for years and years, I thought, let me see what this feedback actually even means. And if I want to grow my career, like how do I do it? So my uh, entire thing kind of changed. My thinking started to change. I was typing in Google more like how to think strategically. I was talking to people like, how do you think strategically? And then I was talking about how do you define problem statements in depth? I'm thinking like a marketer. How do you think like a business owner? I'm just throwing money at the problem. How to be frugal while solving the problem and not always go for monetary solutions. You are thinking linear. How do I think lateral? I started doing all of these things at my end and looking for different solutions around it. And I found it. So from the black side of the screens, I moved to the white side of the screens. But managers always give you back more feedback. Because I was so extreme, I was either black or white. So either I was thinking very strategic or I was thinking very tactical. I didn't knew how to balance out my thought process. Then came in the third layer, how to balance it. So it was all about when to think strategic, when tactical. When the problem statement is enough to move to solutions. Is customer always right? Or should I always force my decisions upon the customers? If the ROI is positive, why don't I just throw money at the problem and solve it? Why do I have to be frugal? And does lateral thinking encourages shortcuts without using the first principles? Or should we always think lateral? So I had this started defining these frameworks in my own head. You move from one bucket, which is your extreme left, and we all have been there. When we start our career, we are always at the left side of the screen. We start to move towards the right side of the screen where we know there is one more dimension to our thought process, our conversation. And then we move to the third part of the screens, and there we start to get a balanced approach in our thought process. And that is why the vocabulary changes, the behavior changes, the way you lead changes, and everything kind of starts to fall into the place in terms of how you behave as a professional. So these were the things that I did. And then I started to build some frameworks on what do I do when I step into a leadership role. And I started building 4 different steps that I do the moment I step into any leadership roles. And I'll talk about all these 4 of them. I know we are short of time. We are already at 4:53. I'll try to cover it as quickly as possible. 4 different elements. The first element is how do you build a growth culture? And the moment you join into an organization from a marketing lens, from a CMO lens, you need to build a marketing culture out there. You need to build a growth culture. You need to ensure that everybody in the organization is kind of helping you achieve your goals, and you are not left alone trying to achieve your goals. How do you build your growth culture? There are 3 core areas. The one thing is you need to think beyond your immediate function. So as I join as a marketing department, as a marketing leader, I don't really go into the marketing department first. I don't really get into understanding, which channels we do marketing. Are we heavy on Facebook? Are we heavy on organic? Are we heavy on press releases? Are we heavy on branding? I am not interested in that first. I'm mostly interested in why our organization even exists, what we do, who is our customer, who do we reach out to, which geos we are in, which geos we are not in, how do we take decisions? Are we a known organization in the market or an unknown? Are we established or not established? Do we have a lot of money in the bank that we can burn? Or are we frugal and we have less money in the bank and we need to turn around things today? Are we running on investors' money or are we a profitable organization running from our own banks? Because until and unless you know all of those things, you're just going to take decisions on your own thought processes, which are going to be incomplete. So I want to be complete before I start doing anything in the organization itself. The second thing is I need to understand what's the core of our organization, because that protection is required. When I started, I still remember when I became the manager for the first time, and I got a department to run and a team to run. I immediately thought I can improve every area of that team. Within 3 months, the entire team was on the verge of leaving. No one knew what they were doing. And everyone was like, this guy wants to change everything that we have. And I was poking my nose into every single creative that was going out, every single messaging, every single ad, every single smallest event. And I was just like, we need to change everything, because I felt like smart. That's not true. There's always a lot of people who have done a lot of work before you joined this organization. Before you led this team, there is a lot of work that has been done. You need to appreciate that. You need to accept it. You need to learn from it, and you need to protect it. So always protect the core of an organization. Don't try to disrupt it the moment you join. Terrible mistake I made one time, never ever. For the first 90 days, I don't even touch the core at all. Absolutely no touching of the core. It will be there, always be there. But I start disrupting the edges. I start looking for things that are not working, that could be better, and I start giving one suggestion at a time and one change at a time. And soon the organization realizes the value, and then they would say, okay, can you do more? Can you do more? And then I start changing the entire team, entire decisions, entire marketing strategies. It takes a year before you can actually settle down onto all of those things. And the last but not the least, do you have the courage to make decisions at the expense of your team? So assuming you joined as a marketing team, as a marketing leader, and this company spends $200,000 a month on paid marketing, and you as a marketing leader come in and you say, I don't want to spend this money anymore. I will spend zero on marketing because it doesn't make sense. It's a big, bold decisions. Can you make these decisions? Are you courageous enough? Because it's gonna cut your team short. It's gonna also come at the expense of your own marketing budgets, but you know that's the right thing to do for the organization, and it doesn't make any more sense to spend money on marketing. Or are you playing too safe and you say, I have the money, let me keep spending on this because who cares? So people will look at your courage. So if you do these three things, you will start building your growth culture around your team, and you will start being valued as a team member out there. The second thing that you do when you come here is you align other departments. How do you align other departments? You form partnerships with them. You are no more isolated as a leader. You need to speak to the design team, to the marketing team, to the operations team, to the supply chain team, to the HR team, to the finance team, and all other teams that are out there. You can't be isolated and doing work with your own team all the time. You need to align other departments. I have a very simple framework of what I use. How do we align my other departments? I figure out how can we make a lot of case studies out of the successes that we create, and how can I make them the hero of my next case study. So if I have tied up with technology team to do a marketing technology led solution, and it has given us some returns, I will be the first one to shoot an email out there that would say technology team helped us achieve this number. And I will not be the hero of that. My team would not be the hero of that case study. It would always be the other department who helped us do that. So the first thing I do is I create groups like marketing technology, marketing analytics, marketing customer experience, marketing operations, etc. You can do that in your own respective fields to figure it out how your work impacts all other work that you do, and how can you form partnerships more. And one strategy over here that you can use it, rather than saying I say, you can always look for consumer insights. You can always say the consumer says X and the consumer says Y, because in a B2C organization, there is a lot of consumer data that comes in. And in a B2B organization, there is also a lot of data that comes in as well. So form partnerships with other business units, and then you can make them hero of your case studies. The third thing that you do is you align your team. You're as good as your team. Are they warriors, or do they hit their goals, or they're just fighting with each other, battling with each other, and trying to move from one step to another? How do you align your team? There are a few things that you can do in the right way. The first one is feedback loops. Do you trust in their ability? Do you trust in their career progression plans? Do they have the autonomy to take decisions themselves, but you have done the right guiding principles for them to not go crazy out there? And do you do knowledge enhancement sessions like the one we are doing here, or you just leave them on their own and say, hey, solve problems? So the feedback loops are very, very important when you set up your teams. You need to have a positive feedback loop, not a negative feedback loop. I always say, and I have read it somewhere, a feedback is either to destroy or it is to build. And it depends on the guy who is delivering it, whether the other person is destroyed or the other person is inspired to build it. So always have these positive feedback loops in your team. Then the most important thing is the right mindset hiring. When we do hiring, we always look at skill sets. We have all these tests, we have all these JDs that only and only talks about skill sets. Yeah, we have a small column where we say we need a problem solver, we need a team player, but we rarely test those skills when we hire. We always test their core designing skills, their branding skills, their marketing skills, but there is no test that we do to figure it out if they are a leader or not, if they are a team player or not, if they are courageous or they are always afraid. We don't know until they get on board into our ship and we start sailing with them. So figure it out what your right mindset is in terms of your hiring. And last but not the least, what is your team culture? And I always take inspirations from the defense forces when you want to build your team structure. And this is one of my favorite emoticons that we use in our teams. This tells we are battle helmets on and we are trying to go and attack the outside world and to win and achieve our goals. No member of my team leaves alone. We kind of sit together and I leave after everyone in my team has left the office. May it be 6 o'clock, may it be 7, may it be 8, may it be 9. I would be there. I would never leave my team member alone. And sooner or later, the team sees that. And we always bail out the person who is stuck in something. So if one person is struggling to deliver, we all come together and we kind of pull them out. We don't leave them alone and say, okay, see you tomorrow, figure it out by yourself uh, till tomorrow. And then that person alone is sitting till 2 a.m., 1 a.m. and trying to solve the problems. We do it as a team. We'll all be awake to get that person out. The first time you will start doing this, you will not get the support that you need. But sooner or later, when they will get stuck into a problem and they will see that the person is sitting with them as well, they will finally understand what this means and they will start aligning on this. Always take inspiration from the defense forces on how to manage a team better and how to make them in a better team culture out there. Once you do these three things, these are very external in nature. You have built a growth culture, you have aligned other departments, you have also aligned your team. But the fourth most important element that is out there is how do you align your self contribution? What are you doing? What is your vibe? Are you a positive guy? Are you a negative guy? Do you play part in office politics or are you outside and giving more positivity? Does everyone in your other departments value you? How are you being perceived? What's your vibe? Are you cool or smart? Or people see you as senior or serious or method driven? These are all the attributes that you will be given, whether you like it or not. It depends on you how you create these attributes for you. The more positive, the better. The more encouraging, the better. And in certain situations, you might have to be serious and method driven, but you don't always have to carry that vibe. So there are three things that you have to do. The first one is new initiatives you take. Are you even creating any initiatives or you are just kind of managing, aligning, and you are just trying to do whatever has been done ever? What was the new shiny thing that you started that has been delivering really well for the organization and for the results? Always look for one new initiative that you can create, and that would become that you created that initiative from scratch. New platforms you provide. Obviously, an organization is already running in the format that it is running. How can you help quickly solve some of the problems? Do you have a network? Do you have connections? Do you have access to some information? Or do you have access to people that you can solve? The moment you join a new organization, there will be a lot of unsolved problems that are out there. Figure it out. How can you solve it quickly by just using your phone and connections, and you will be seen as a valuable resource. And last but not the least, which is new energy you deliver. What is your energy? How does people feel around you? Do they feel positive, encouraging, want to do more stuff, or they feel drained and just want to leave and go out and be at their homes? So always try to deliver an energy that gets people back on track and that makes them get the positivity that they need, and they finally start delivering. Once you do these all four things together, you would be taken care of from a mindset perspective, and the skill set is one thing that you are already developing, and combining both of these things, you can win any battle out there that is there. You can think like anybody you want to think. It completely depends on who you want to think with. Take these two frameworks, break it down into your own formats. This presentation is only as a placeholder. You can change the 10 is to marketing, change marketing to design, design to HR, HR to finance. All the other four steps that I've taken about are also placeholders. New initiatives you take. If you are a designer, you know it needs to be designing initiative. If you are an HR, it's an HR initiative. So fill in as you want it. But the moment you combine both of them, you will be at a better place. And the last, I want to say thank you for inviting me. And I really love this book, The Art of War. I think opportunities multiply as they are seized. So go out, seize few opportunities, and the new opportunities will open for you. And you can be anybody and you can think like anybody. Thank you so much. I'll be opening for questions or anything else you want to discuss.
Thank you so much, sir. Do we have any questions?
I have no question as such, but really thanks for this session. I mean, it was very interesting because you broke down into frameworks which can be really used practically. So thanks a lot for taking time and
Thank you so much for attending.
thank you.
I don't see any questions. I would like to thank you so much, Mr. Harneet, for taking out the time. Today's session was packed with knowledge and unique perspectives. And I think I say this for everybody when I say today's session had wonderful insights, videos, and analogies. It really helped us understand this concept of skill set, mindset, obsession for the craft, and playfulness with the thought. Apart from that, I would also like to thank all the participants who took out the time from their busy schedule. So yeah, that's it from our side. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much, guys.